I'm Carolyn Hartzell. I'm a professor in the political science department. Let me just also say one other thing before we get started here. We are recording the session, so I did want to make that clear to everybody. All right. And again, as I said, we will take questions on chat as we go along as well. So I'm Carolyn Hartzell. I'm a professor in the political science department. I teach courses in international relations in the political science department and international political economy. I will also be department chair within a couple of months. So we're going to have a transition on department chairs. I'm going to let Allison and Jack introduce themselves to you guys.
Hi everyone, my name is Allison Lashnadok. I'm a senior from Newburyport, Massachusetts, studying political science and public policy. My tracks in the political science department, which we'll talk about, are American government and international affairs, or international relations. And then on campus, I work for the political science office as a research assistant / intern. And then I also work as a RA for residence life, or I did, worked for admissions, and I'm a part of the Eisenhower Institute in their Fielding Fellowship, which is a senior year fellowship offered to 8 or 9 students to work on a grant funded by the State Department.
My name is Jack Lashnadok. I'm also a senior and Allison's twin. I am a political science and international affairs double major with minors in history and Middle East and Islamic studies. Like Allison, I'm also a student intern / researcher in the political science department, as well as one of the members of the Fielding Fellowship. Sort of outside of that, I'm also the vice president of the Student Senate, and I work as a coordinator for the campus rec and intramural program.
So I asked Allison and Jack to be the students that participated in this with me for a couple of reasons. One, I think you can tell just by their introductions, they cover a lot of kind of bandwidth at the college here in terms of their activities and the like. I also thought it was kind of neat that we have twins who are majoring in political science. I'm not sure which of them declared first, but—
That was me. I did it.
Okay, all right. You get that honor, Jack. So we have a few issues we thought we'd go over. And again, if you have questions as we go along, go ahead and use the chat and function, and we will go ahead and read the questions out so that everybody else can hear them. All right. So I thought I'd start by talking just a little bit about the structure of the political science major. I always describe it to students as more or less consisting of a pyramid, and at the bottom of the pyramid are the introductory level courses. We have, as Allison kind of made passing reference to subfields, we have 4 subfields in the political science department: American government, international relations, comparative politics, and political theory or political thought. And so at the introductory level, we have an introductory level course in each of those. Out of those 4, you choose 3 for the bottom of the pyramid. So you take 3 different intro level classes across, choose 3 out of those 4 subfields, and then you start building up for the major. So out of those 3 that you took at the intro level, you pick 2, and you take courses in those at the 200 and the 300. And then finally, someone's saying we lagged out. Let's see. Oh, what was the 3rd field? Okay, so the fields are, again, international relations, political science. Sorry, I'm getting distracted by the chat message. All right, the subfields are IR, American government, comparative politics, and political theory. In your senior year, you take a capstone course, a 400 level class on one of the 2 subfields that you built all the way up on, right? And Jack and Allison can tell you a little bit more, give you examples of their courses, for example. Also required of everyone is a methods course. Everyone has to take that. That's a 200 level course. And then the 10th course in the major is what I call the floater, but it's a 200 or 300 level class in any of the other subfields in which you've done the introductory level course. So there are 10 required courses for the major. And as I'll talk about a little bit with respect to study abroad, some of those can be done off campus. We also often have students come in with AP courses. And so those can be used for example, say an AP American Government can substitute as your introduction to American Government class. A little bit more on the major, and I saw that somebody had a class, for example, on double majors, and we'll definitely talk about that. We are the biggest major at the college right now. We have been one of the biggest majors for years, but this year we are far and away the biggest major at the college, at somewhere over 240 plus majors. So that's a testament, I think, to the popularity of the political science major. Also, in response in part to the question someone just asked over chat, it's also because political science is a very friendly major in terms of pairing it with other majors, and we can talk a little bit about that as well. And then the last thing I just wanted to say, by way of talking about the major, is that when you come to Gettysburg, you will have an advisor. Initially, if you take for example, an FYS, it might be someone who is teaching a first-year seminar, for example. When you declare the political science major, then you get an advisor in political science. And your admissions department, and more than that, it's one of the tenure track professors in the department. So you will have someone who definitely teaches in the department, who knows the major, and that person will be your advisor. Let me turn now just again in reference to the idea of double majoring. With the political science major, that's definitely feasible since it only requires 10 classes. It's not like the biomolecular biology major, for example, which was 17 courses in order to complete the major. So really popular majors, I mean, you can pair anything with political science, but in particular, public policy is a very popular one. International affairs is another one. Globalization studies is another one. And I thought I'd let Allison and Jack speak a little bit to that because they have double majors.
Sure.
Yeah, so yeah, with the at least with the international affairs major, that's a really unique major because it's one of only a few on campus that can't be a standalone major. Means you have to pair it with something else, whether it's political science or history or environmental science. You know, people really run away with it. But what's really nice is that for that major, 3 of the courses that you take are 3 political science courses. So you can somewhat when I told my mother I was going to be a double major, double minor, and she looked at me like I was crazy and said, "Oh my God, are you going to graduate on time?" I said that, you know, there's a way to double dip in a sense that you can sort of knock off your political science requirements and your international affairs requirements. And you can choose electives in the political science department, within the public policy major, within any sort of other major that you want to do. So, you know, it's definitely something that's easy to do. Allison, do you want to talk about public policy?
Yeah, I mean, to just echo what you've said, public policy is similar in the sense that it's another major that can't stand alone. It has to have a partner. Political science is one of the top partners with public policy. And the nice thing about it is public policy is very interdisciplinary. You have that option for overlap like with international, but you also have space in those kinds of majors to explore your interest, to explore your policy interest, and then apply your secondary major, which in my case is political science, to kind of figuring out what your interest is. So I've focused on national security policy, which allows me to use my foreign policy and national security classes from political science major, but kind of apply them to the stuff that I'm learning in the analysis, policy analysis that I've been learning in public policy. So I would definitely recommend considering a double major. You don't have to do one of the majors that you don't have to do IA or public policy, but those are just options.
And to address the minors as well, generally, again, I can really only speak to the social sciences and the humanities. The minors are generally only 6 classes, you know, and generally it consists of a few intros, a few 200 level, and, you know, 1 or 2 300 level courses. So, you know, if there's something that you're really passionate about, like I love history, but I knew that I didn't want to walk out of Gettysburg College with a history degree because my love of political science and, you know, international affairs was far greater. I thought, you know, there are some really interesting courses in some other majors I want to try my hand at. And have been able to not only meet some really great new people, but even apply in a political science paper, feel more confident talking about the historical context of something as I would a historian, and then pivot back into the political science aspect and tie in the analysis.
Good, thank you. So I haven't seen any more questions pop up. Okay, there's a pre-law one. So I will speak a little bit about pre-law in just a minute as well. The political science major is the opportunities you have to work with faculty within the major. Both Allison and Jack, again, will definitely speak to that in just a minute. We have had, for example, oftentimes students in the department work as research assistants for faculty. We have had faculty actually co-author publications with students. So sometimes we've co-authored conference papers with them. I've had students go to conferences with me in the United States, for example, to help present the papers they've co-authored. I've actually co-authored with a student a publication that got into a major journal, for example. So that's one avenue for opportunities to work with faculty. Allison and Jack, do you guys want to give some personal examples?
Sure. I got involved with research with a professor the end of my first year just by taking the American Government 101 course, and my professor mentioned she was doing research and was looking for someone to help out. So I went up to her after class and said I'd really like to help out. Professor Iannello focuses on women in the workplace, something called fourth wave feminism and neoliberal feminism, two concepts I had never heard of before. And I was able to help her plan focus group questions, help analyze responses, as well as look through and come up with and curate academic articles for her to use in her literature review. And then she actually referred me to work with another professor because of that, and Professor Akbaba, who focuses on, well, her book was focused on Middle Eastern role theory, which is something else I had never heard of before, and she was looking for someone to edit it before she sent it to her publisher, and so I was able to read the whole thing in its entirety and edit it, which was awesome. My name is in the acknowledgements, which is one of the most exciting things that came out of that, but also being able to work with professors on academic research that they've spent their entire career dedicated to. It's really a privilege to be allowed to help them out with that and learn how to work with someone who is so much smarter than you and sort of help them with whatever they need. It's just a really awesome opportunity, and I'm sure Jack can speak to that as well.
Yeah, so similar in my first year, actually, I applied, I saw an ad, a posting sort of, on one of the emails. And it was to actually work with Professor Hartzell on this initiative that she had come up with called the Year of Food, which was trying to join, really take a multidisciplinary look at a certain issue for the full year. And this year, the first year was going to be food. The second year, I think it was going to be water, followed by conflict. And then the fourth year, and then sort of, have this Gettysburg cycle of, as one class arrived at Gettysburg, it would sort of do this cycle. They'd leave Gettysburg and the next sort of round would pick it up. And so we planned, I got to work alongside of her planning events and getting speakers to come and getting student outreach to get interested in this issue. I thought it was a really successful thing. I really enjoyed a lot of the journals and the academic work that that's what I was exposed to help plan this. Unfortunately, there wasn't a second year, but I would love to come back and revive it with you, Professor Hartzell.
Excellent.
We'll get that doctorate degree very quickly, and then we'll bring it back. And, sort of off of that, I really got to know the other professors in the political science department and was able to work and get a job as the student researcher office assistant, which exposed me to longer term projects with, Professor Shirley Ann Warshaw, who specializes in American government, elections, and the presidency, which was always something I'd seen on the news, but really hadn't been able to interact with, which was really awesome. Whether it was, research, ground level research to help with a journal article or an op-ed or something like that, or even just, walking about the political science department saying, hey, I'm here for the next 2 hours on my work shift. Is there anything interesting that I can help you out with? Sometimes it's, they're recommending book titles too, because they're asking you to scan some chapters out of a book for their class. Or, you know, sometimes it's, oh, come in, have a seat, here's what I'm working on, what are you working on? So I think it's really cool, not only professional, as Allison was saying, advancement, but also just really getting to know professors, you know, on a name basis and a research basis. I mean, I could walk into Professor Hartzell's office and say, I wrote this paper when I was abroad, could you take a look at it? It's 20 pages and I know that you have other papers to grade, but, you know, I really value your feedback and your comment. And, you know, I don't think you could find that at another school.
Thank you. Okay, so we did have at least one study abroad question. So let me just say a little bit about that. And then just very briefly, Allison and Jack can tell you about their study abroad experience, because we do have several other questions and a few other themes we want to cover here. So study abroad, if you didn't know anything about Gettysburg, we really do study abroad. I mean, we are among the top ranked liberal arts colleges in the country in terms of the number of students who study abroad, and not short-term study, but semester-long study. So all of our study abroad is a semester-long program. You actually have the opportunity to study abroad twice. You could go to totally different locations those 2 times, or for example, I've been talking to a student who plans to go to Jordan for an entire year, do one program in Jordan, and then the next semester, a different program in Jordan. So that's a possibility as well. Study abroad, if you study abroad, we let you take 2 courses abroad that can transfer back into the political science major at the 200 level in the major, so kind of the next level up in the pyramid. So you do want to, you know, do a little bit of planning in terms of thinking about what courses. Usually it's not American government that you take abroad. It's probably going to be international relations or comparative politics type courses you take abroad. And we have political science majors go study in all kinds of programs. There are not preset programs, partly sometimes because they might be minoring or majoring in a foreign language. If you're majoring in a foreign language, all the foreign languages require you to go study abroad. For example, if you're majoring in German, you must go study abroad for a semester in Germany. If Spanish, either to Spain or Latin America. And while there, you can ostensibly take a political science class or 2. So if you're studying in Spain, you can, for example, take a class on Spanish politics or Spain in the European Union or something like that. We have students go to Denmark to, a political science major is slated to go to, oh gosh, I've just forgotten, but it'll come to me. It's only 3 people have ever studied there from Gettysburg, so that's probably why I'm forgetting it. But students go to Asia, they go to Sub-Saharan Africa, they go literally all over the world. So study abroad is very, very popular with political science students, and it includes, I might say, study in Washington, D.C. We have 2 programs in Washington, D.C. Lots of political science students do study abroad in Washington, D.C. for a semester. Both programs there have, as a very big component of them, an internship. So we have lots of students who do an internship in Washington, D.C. as part of a study abroad program for a semester. And that's probably one of the reasons we end up having so many political science majors after they graduate end up migrating back to DC because of contacts they've made there, job possibilities because of those internships and the like. Really briefly, Allison and Jack, do you want to say something about your study abroad experience?
Yeah, Jack, you want to go first?
Yeah, sure. In the fall of my junior year, which is typically when people go abroad, but not always, I studied in Geneva, Switzerland, with a program through the School for International Training that was exclusively focused on multilateral diplomacy and international relations. Geneva is the European headquarters of the United Nations, as well as a bunch of other international organizations and NGOs. So I was able to make a lot of really cool contacts there, live with a host family, explore the country extensively from, the fields to the mountains, and was able to do some independent research on sort of a topic of my design and my choosing, which was awesome, which was to look at UN peacekeeping, which is sort of an issue near and dear to my heart, but it was awesome, and I cannot recommend study abroad more highly.
Yeah, I'd agree. I went to Bath, England, so I'm also an English minor, so I was focusing on the English aspect, but I was able to take courses in UK government and my personal favorite, which was UK media analysis. So we actually got to go to a lot of major news corporations there. My favorite was the Telegraph, and sort of see what they do. And to agree with what Jack said, definitely go abroad. Your professors encourage you to go abroad. They make it really easy for you to go abroad and to take classes that you wouldn't necessarily find at Gettysburg. So I loved my experience as well.
Thanks. Someone just asked whether political science actually requires a foreign language, and we do not. So the college has a language requirement. So there are 2 semesters of foreign language study at the college level, but political science does not require anything beyond that. I highly recommend it, especially if you have an interest in things international or the like, or maybe career with the State Department or something like that, but the department itself does not require it. All right, so we wanted to say a little bit about programs that people often think of as kind of relating to the political science department. They're not our programs per se, but because there are a high number of political science students that get involved in them, they might be of interest to you. And part of these are, for example, the EI, the Eisenhower Institute programs. There's an EI Fellows program. There's the Fielding Center for Presidential Leadership Study, which I think Allison mentioned briefly earlier. And then something different from those 2, but also extremely popular at the college, is the Center for Public Service. All of them have been nationally recognized, and we get lots of students, again, as I said, involved in these. Right now, for example, I'm one of the faculty members who's involved in helping select the EI Fellows for next year's program, which is on the domino theory and Eisenhower's foreign policy. Very, very briefly, maybe Allison, do you want to speak to this?
Sure. Yeah, the Eisenhower Institute is a really awesome co-curricular is what we call it. So they allow all majors to participate. You don't have to just be a political science major. They offer semester-long and year-long programs such as Washington Connections, which really gets first year and second year students connected to alumni we have in DC. I did this program as a sophomore when it was called Inside Politics. You work with an expert in that field. So we worked with a man named Casey Pipes, who was a speechwriter for President Bush. And it's a really good way to develop skills that are necessary for working in that field, as well as making connections. So we all had a policy memo due at the end of the semester. I know Jack has participated in Inside the Middle East, which focused on Middle Eastern intelligence. These are programs that you don't get a grade for, but you do definitely get a lot of benefit, whether it's meeting other students on campus or being connected with faculty or alumni off campus. Professor Hartzell touched upon the fellowships. Those are both offered for seniors. They're really awesome opportunities. Again, you don't have to be a political science major, but we look at the Eisenhower Institute as a public policy and leadership hub on campus. So they cater to those events that are semester and year long, but they also have speaker series and programming on the side. So anyone can get involved. There's different levels of involvement that are offered.
So I think I'm going to move extracurricular clubs and Senate to the end because I'm monitoring our time, and we've had some questions that relate to some of the other issues. Someone just asked the question about how difficult it is to get into the poli-sci classes given their size. I mean, we can ask Allison and Jack if they've struggled to get into particular classes. The biggest classes are the introductory level classes, but they're capped at 25. Faculty will sometimes let a few additional students in, but not too many because we like the small sizes. It makes for good discussion in class and the like. Also, most of the 200s are actually capped at 25 as well. Except methods, that's capped down a little bit lower because we have computer labs associated with those. And then as you go up, the final level, the smallest classes are capstone courses. And it actually turned out that this semester, all of a sudden for next year, I am now teaching 2 capstone courses because we didn't have enough IR. There was so many people that wanted to get into the international relations capstone courses. So we do accommodate if need be. We'll scramble and get an extra section in or something like that. So, I mean, sometimes you might have to wait a semester to take a class you wanted to take, but generally we try our hardest to accommodate students. There were a few questions about internships. So as I mentioned, one place that a lot of students do internships is through the DC program, so a semester-long program with an associated internship. That's one way to do it. We do not require internships in political science, but other places you can do them are, we've had people do them right in town, working with the mayor's office or that kind of thing, for example. We have had students do them in Harrisburg. The state capital is about an hour away. And we certainly have students do them during the summer. And you can do them for academic credit. They don't count for a credit in the political science major. You can't use it for graduating the political science major, but you can use it as a credit towards graduating, one of the 32 credits you need to graduate from the college. Really quickly, Jack, anything on this front? Or
yeah, Allison, I'll let you go first.
Well, we're running out of time, so you can just do yours.
Great. I spent my first summer between sophomore and junior year interning with Senator Edward J. Markey up here in Massachusetts, where Allison and I are from. And then last summer, I interned with Governor Charles Baker, who's our state's governor. And the college is really nice that not only can you do academic credit, but working with the Career Center, you're able to apply for internship funding as well. So my 2 government internships were unpaid, and I had a train ticket to pay for it to get to and from Boston. And you're able to apply for funding, once or twice, and they sort of help contribute a little bit to your cost, whether it's transportation or housing or something like that, which really makes it accessible to accept an internship that you know is going to advance your career.
Okay, let's see. So there was a question about law school. I mean, and if, I can say more about this if people end up having more questions, but grad school, law school, we do have students go on to both. I just got an email from one of my former students this week telling me he had just successfully defended his dissertation. So he is getting his PhD in political science. I've had other students go on to get PhDs in political science. We have students who go on to get master's degrees in public policy, master's degrees in development. Just another student emailed me this week because I'd written a letter for him, and he's starting in his master's degree at Georgetown in the fall, in person, he hopes, as he wrote. So lots of people do go on to graduate school, and we are doing really, really well in terms of law school too. One of our newer faculty in the department is our pre-law advisor at the college, and he's located in our department. He also, in addition to having a PhD in political science, has a law degree. And for example, this year we have the highest LSAT average ever among the students. We have 100% acceptance rate to law school among students. That was true last year as well. And just to give some examples, students have matriculated to law school at Harvard, Penn, UVA, Vanderbilt, and Temple, among others. So, you don't have to major in political science to go into law school, but I would say roughly half the people who do are political science majors. But among others, we've had people who've majored in chemistry and theater arts, for example, go on as well to law school. So let's see. And then I think another big one we've had some questions on that we can talk about is definitely career paths. So I'll just give a few examples of what students who've majored in political science have gone on to do. And then we can also turn to Allison and Jack, who are graduating seniors in just a few weeks. And they can talk about that as well. So one of the things that I would say is, and this is no surprise given what I said about the internships, but also just people's interests, right? And also our, proximity to Washington, DC. Again, it's a bit of a ride, but it's not, it is definitely feasible to get down there for field trips and that kind of thing. So we have many poli-sci alum that work on Capitol Hill, for example. Others, so I'll just give a few examples. Jamie Fleet is staff director at the U.S. House of Representatives and advisor to Speaker Nancy Pelosi. Featured on our website just this week is one of my former students, Katie Labasco. She's now a politics writer for CNN. We have someone else, Ariel, who's a speechwriter for the FBI director. Another woman is product manager for Quorum, which is a legislative tracking service in Washington, D.C. Another one of my former students, Aimee, managed an NGO in Afghanistan with a staff of 200 people. She just left that position about 3 months ago. I have had a large number of students end up from political science on Wall Street, for example. So pretty much anything you can imagine are jobs you can get into with a political science major. What people are looking for are people with good writing skills, with strong analytical skills. Our methods course gives students some data analytics skills. I should also mention that we're starting a brand new data science minor in the fall. That might be something that people would be interested in coupling with political science, and which could really yield some very interesting job prospects as well. So, you know, that's just a small, subset of some of the careers our students have gone on to. So let me turn it over to Allison and Jack on that front.
Yeah, so I actually have a job when I graduate, hopefully still, cross my fingers. It came from a summer internship that I had that an alumni had connected me to. So I interned with the Department of Justice in Washington, D.C. and was offered a position to work with them in Boston. So I would have never found out that they took interns or found that I really enjoyed working for them without that alumni connection, but I'm really excited to start. And I actually met a couple of Gettysburg graduates from the political science department when I was in DC. So we do have, like Professor Hartzell said, we have a lot of Gettysburg political science alumni working in DC doing really awesome things.
And just also to reiterate something Allie just said, it's not just the alumni that we have in Washington, D.C. I mean, Gettysburg College is actually quite famous for its very strong alumni network. So that is something, again, you can draw on for internship placements, for what are called externships, for just kind of, you know, putting your toe in the water to see if potentially a career path is of interest to you. An alum will let you shadow them for, you know, a day, 2 or 3 days. There are lots of possibilities that way. And then let's see, the one thing I had skipped over that we might go back to, although I'll see if there's anything else in the chat and then we can open it up too. You guys want to talk a little bit about extracurricular clubs, Senate, that kind of thing?
Yeah, go ahead, Jack.
Yeah, sure. There's definitely so much to get involved with at Gettysburg. In terms of extracurriculars, usually at Gettysburg, a large club fair, which unfortunately I love to staff. Unfortunately, we're all not there to enjoy that. Definitely walk around in the fall. There's a big club fair ranging from things related to politics, the college Republicans and the college Democrats, to what I do. I do Model United Nations, something I've been involved with since my freshman year in high school, something that Alice and I have both done here at Gettysburg College. We've traveled to 3 countries doing Model UN, started our own conference, but I'm also the vice president of the Student Senate, which is a really great organization. It's a strong organization to give students a voice on campus, especially to address issues and grievances with the administration or to solve issues that are going on within class government or amongst classes, and just ways that, you know, having served as a senator, the chairman of the Opinions Committee and the vice president, I've really been able to see how students can find issues on campus and do something about it and make the college a better place when they leave than when they found it. And I think that really speaks. And a lot of students who are part of Senate are political science students, but, you know, by all means, you know, anybody can join. We have some science people who are really dedicated to student government just as much as political science students are.
I think we've made our way through most of this now. Do you guys want to offer your email addresses in case people have follow-up questions, and I can do that as well?
Sure, should we just type it in the chat?
Sure, that'd be good. All right, and then I'll
and then also, Professor Hartzell, do you mind if I address the last question?
Sure.
Because if anyone is interested in knowing more about the Eisenhower Institute, Get Acquainted Day Virtual is also offering a panel on Wednesday, this coming Wednesday. It's going to be at 4 o'clock, so there has to be a way to register through admission. So if you want to know more and we didn't cover during this, definitely keep an eye out for that.
My email address, you can find it on the Political Science Department website because all the faculty are listed there, but mine is, as my daughter always says, Chartzel, CHARTZEL @gettysburg.edu. So we are happy to linger a little bit if people have more questions. I think we already went over by a few minutes, but if anyone has any further questions they'd like to ask, you can go ahead and type it in chat, or if enough people are kind of dropping out, then we might be able to go back to video, that I don't think we can with all of the people that are on right now. So any questions for anybody? Allison, Jack, any last words?
I think we covered everything, and you'll find that Gettysburg College students and alum are very welcoming of those to our new community. So feel free to reach out with any questions, whether it's political science related or Gettysburg in general. I can speak for Allison on this one as much as myself, but we'd love to, keep in touch and help you out.
We did just have a question asked. Does Gettysburg help with funds for study abroad? So study abroad is essentially, the way Gettysburg does it is kind of neat, I think. You are not charged extra for studying abroad. It's considered one of your semesters at the college. And in fact, the college will help pay for airfare ticket, for example. And beyond that, there's also some scholarships available beyond that for study abroad. And there are also, if people have needs of extra funds for other reasons for study abroad, there are ways to try to access some of those as well. But study abroad is not something that costs you extra on top of your Gettysburg education. It's considered such an integral part of the education of students. One of our goals is to create global citizens, that we try to make it as easy as possible to study abroad. Someone just asked whether poli-sci would work well. Whoops, I just lost it. But I think, as a double major with history. Yep, we've definitely had students who do both. I think poli-sci works really well with almost anything you can think of. One of our alum who's actually gotten a lot of international attention was a visual arts major and a political science major. She's actually been living in Boston the last few years. She's originally from Nepal. She does decorates large installations and buildings with Nepali kind of street art type thing. It's very, very cool. So you can major in anything. Okay, well, if any of you have questions, feel free to follow up. All right, and hopefully, well, Jack and Allison will be graduating, but I would be happy to welcome you to Gettysburg next fall.